Good morning, good day, good afternoon to you crazy, beautiful, psychotic restoration entrepreneurs. Welcome to the Disaster Podcaster today as we talk about just that, the roller coaster, which is entrepreneurship. I know that everyone will be able to relate. I think we talk about this all the time, but I'm going to put a lot of things into context with that conversation from where I am now at my 50-year-old self. Turned 50 last week, and I see things differently than I did when I was younger. Maybe that's good, maybe that's not good. I don't know. But first, I just want to welcome you and thank you for joining. This is our second season, episode number 16 of our second season. So we're breezing right through the year. We usually take off around the holidays and make a mid-season break, or in this case, it might be the end of the season. Before we go into season 3 for next year. But I really just wanted to continue to bring this. We have some really exciting episodes coming up in the near future, some interviews with some really, really, really awesome, interesting, enlightening, crazy people. So it's going to be fun. But like always, I just want to start out real quick, pay the bills, and thanks to Kahi. Kahi is an incredible asset management, fleet tracking, data-driven, high-tech program that's now helping you track your equipment and take care of and manage the things that are most expensive, as well as which are revenue streams for your company, your equipment, your people, and your vehicles. So check out Kahi, please. I was with Kevin Dooley, the owner, last weekend on Sunday in Florida before I came back, and we spent the day and talked about some future growth that he's got going on. It's phenomenal. Those that I'm watching, those that are adopting the program and starting to use it, have nothing but good things to say. So really, really go check out Kahi.io, and Kahi is giving a discount on hardware, 10% off on all hardware associated with Kahi. Using the word podcast, Podcast. Reach out to them at Kahi.io. So if you watch the last 2 episodes of our podcast, number 14 and 15, if I'm doing the math right, we did those from Florida, 2 different locations. I was down as a coach and a consultant for Hurricane Ian. And that was a pretty interesting, ugly storm. It's really interesting. We'll talk about that a little bit today. But I went down for the first time as a consultant, as a coach, as a separate person in the storm. I'm usually a contractor participating in it. And then I walked plenty of jobs, and I've got clients that had signed up some large scale projects and helping others. Actually, this is all going to tie into today's conversation about entrepreneurs, and I guess I are one now. I launched my new company while I was down there. I have a company that I have been vision casting for a while, and wasn't ready to launch, like fully developed. Don't have a website yet, things like that. But I got there and immediately saw the need. And so I launched it and had great success, and I was able to go right in and help some people with their business. It's called CATX, CATX, and it's a consulting firm, a Clark Brown consulting firm, but for catastrophe, for commercial. There will be an off-season component, which will be training companies to manage and take on commercial jobs, as well as what to expect of running it and billing them and things like that. And so if you want to go to a storm or a large event, area-wide disaster, your company's in a better position. So there's a real need for that. That's not something that's easy to get your hands on. I have other coach friends that teach components of it in this industry, but I think this lane is great. But I launched it. And so I played the entrepreneur card, and could have gone wrong. I mean, I think I didn't go overboard. I didn't take on a lot of new clients. I wanted to keep it small and compartmentalized so that I could control what it was, as well as learn from it and absorb and serve. So I did that, but that's not always the case, especially when you're a visionary. When you're a visionary and an entrepreneur. So, but I'm glad I did it. So, Florida, just Florida, Hurricane Ian hit Fort Myers Beach area. This was a very dangerous storm, did a lot of damage, but it was very, very interesting for a lot of reasons. I'm not going to make this podcast about the hurricane, but there were a lot of components there that are going to tie into our conversations today. And those components were people not doing their homework, from around the country. There are people who do this for a living. There are companies who are set up to deploy, to go to area-wide disasters, whether they be a franchise and they have an inter-franchise network, or they're an independent company that just does this with a piece of their company. But this storm posed some real challenges in being that they were in Florida. And one of them was the state requires you to have a license in that state, a business license, to do remediation, restoration, even drying, or any of that. There was a lot of people going back and forth saying that was not the case, but it definitely was. Some great people checked with the DPR and did their homework, and we released that information on our groups and educated some people. Some people buckled up and said, woo, and they zipped out. They went home, said, don't want to do work illegally and expose our company. Some chose not to. Some are going to stay down there and risk it. Asbestos needs to be checked down there. Florida is a very, very, very serious state when it comes to environmental controls. It's a mold-regulated state, which is going to have a lot of mold growing in these jobs. So you're going to need to approach that if you're out of town or out of state. But it was just really eye-opening for me to see what I saw. So I saw a lot of good people doing some good things, and jobs were set up good. I like to sit here and say, am I an expert enough to judge that? I am. I've done this so long, and I can immediately tell you when I walk onto a job site or a project site, just even from the outside, that someone knows what the hell they're doing. Safety, signage, just how it's set up. And there were some people who were doing phenomenal jobs. I went by some good friends that have major Serpros and Service Masters. So the franchise side have it together. And then there were some really independents that were large companies, had some large-scale jobs, and they were killing it. But then there were smaller guys tackling what they could. Residential homes, everybody was struggling with power and whatnot. So, but then I saw a lot of people just doing bad work, selling jobs by the square foot, not getting generators and using portable generators, trying to dry their jobs, but not effectively, not cleaning properly from a Category 3 law. So I saw a lot of that. And all I can do is offer some advice to those people that even if they weren't working for me, because I care about this industry, I made some recommendations, and it is what it is and went where it went. So, but I want to talk today about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, I actually looked up the definition, and here it is. So we're going to talk about this. Entrepreneur, it's a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses, taking on greater than normal financial risk in order to do so. I think that's a pretty good definition of entrepreneur, is the risk. And that's probably what most of us think about in that world of risk that we take on. Entrepreneurship, small to medium business ownership, taking those risks. I've always said it's a Spartan race. It is a grueling, unforgiving, relentless race that is beyond. You got the mud, you got the heat, dehydration, you've got everything. And I'm using metaphors, of course, but it's a Spartan race. And I'd like to say that if you have the wherewithal, the gusto, the nerve, the idea to chase your dreams, I think that in a Spartan race, even if you don't win and you do participate, you still win. Even the participants are above a lot of other people. And I want to talk about that today. So I really, really am drawn to people who are not risky, reckless, but risk, to take risk, and that understand risk is there and are confident enough to know that the risk, albeit may turn it to a really bad thing, they know they can start back over and do something else. They're adaptive enough to do that usually, or at least they think they do. We obviously see lots and lots and lots of entrepreneurs that don't fare too well. Pride and ego are a huge issue of entrepreneurship. So I want to talk about things in the sense today that those of you listening will agree, and you will relate to many of these, because I have those same components of our business, the good and the bad. And I want to talk about the highs and the lows today. But as you're listening through this, I want you to think about, yourself. If I say something that sparks a moment of, which is every other moment, as entrepreneurs always tell ourselves, I know I need to do that, I just haven't done it yet. So you're going to hear that today. You're like, yep, I need to do that, but I haven't done it yet. It's a roller coaster. It's up and down. It's wild. It's business. Entrepreneurship, starting your own business, launching off to do your own thing, side hustle, main thing, whatever it is. Structurally, there's never been an easier time on earth, I believe, to start your own business because of the World Wide Web, the information that's out there. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people have built their business off of YouTube lessons. It's never been easier to get information, but that doesn't mean it's easy to start and grow a business profitably to do well. As a matter of fact, the very fact of why it's easier to do than normal makes it probably one of the hardest things you're going to do because of the saturation. The number of people that are starting a business, and many of them not well, not great, but maybe in the same sector as you, as the same niche as you, and you can open an LLC easily with your state licensing and very minimal money to get started with something, and you can, all this. Very, very few industries have a license that are needed. I wish ours did. I wish ours had a higher bar of entry because of the impact of doing it wrong. But if you're an entrepreneur, you're competing against the weakest links in your business. We all are, because those weakest links that's what people remember. That's what people are drawn to, paint our entire industry with that same brush. If wherever you live, you have a mechanic shop that does bad work, or a hair salon, or a grocery store, and you go there, you're like, man, grocery stores, they suck. Car mechanics are all crooks. I guarantee you a lot of people with home service trades paint with all the same, they paint a picture with the stereotypes. Super expensive, non-responsive, don't show up on time, don't communicate well, change gears too many times and don't tell us, end up handing me a bill and cheat me and charging me for something I didn't need. Sound familiar? Well, when you go into a home in this business, or a business, when you go to a commercial job or residential, it's a likely chance that whether or not they're saying it externally, your client has those reservations in their head, and your job is to help overcome that. And that's not from overselling. As a matter of fact, I'm doing a client onboarding class. It starts tomorrow. By the time you've seen this, it will already, the opportunity will have already passed to do it. But I'm going to make a course for that one day for people. But onboarding your customer is not just selling them and telling them how great you are. It's through your standards and your actions and all those great core values that you've got as a company, how they come across and what you and your entire staff does. That's hard to do these current last couple of years, and especially recently, finding staff that will do your do the things the way you design them to do. So starting a business right now with this labor staffing economy that we're in is very risky, especially if it requires people. A lot of people are drawn to companies to start that require no staff. Consulting is one of those. I don't necessarily love the idea of having a lot of employees. It adds a component of things out of control, and I love the low overhead. But it's also a limitation on scaling. So finding that mixture is everything. But it's easier than ever to start a business, and that's not great. You'll have a lot of people out there that are not serious and professional, and you are the one in your field or one of several, and you're trying to prove that every single day, and you have to start over with every single customer because we get painted the same way in the eyes of the public. Could talk all day about how to beat that, but I think that topic is very real for everybody. So let's talk about the highs. Okay, the high point of the roller coaster, the part where you're just loving it. It's fun. It's it's hitting the part of your heart. It's fulfilling your cup. Whatever the reason is that you started your business. And by the way, I hope that you start a business about something you love or you're passionate about. You're going to have a lot more success if that's the case, because that comes across in what you do. People that are in a business that they don't love it or even like it, usually that business is a reflection of that, and it's mediocre at best and usually below that. But the highs, and I'll speak for myself, are the independence. To me, freedom and independence it's everything. It's the idea of working for someone again is not even in my wheelhouse. It's not even in my view of the camera lens. I serve the people I work for as client and coach, and that is incredibly powerful, and I love that. But working and designing a business under somebody else's vision, I did it for a long time, and I had to do that to get here. I had my own business early in my life, and then again in the middle of my career. And I've worked for big companies and smaller companies, and that was all needed for me to be where I am now. But the highs are the independence, the adaptability. You can adapt and overcome. You can be anything you want to do. You can pursue the education. Nobody has to tell you. You can pay yourself very little for a while to make an investment in growth, and then later you can pull out as much profit as healthy for the business. But be careful. It's a very big trap. The other highs are you often will become surrounded with a tribe of other entrepreneurs that ignite this passion. So if you already are like-minded, or if you're already of a certain mindset and you get around a lot of people that kind of share those with you, that is extremely powerful. And that's where a lot of personal and professional growth comes from, is your peers. That's why masterminds are so big, and networking and things like that. So for all those reasons, those are high. You can make really, really good living. You can make a lot of money. You can show and share with your family and your kids what it means to be independent and entrepreneur-minded and able to do things for yourself and create things. It is very creative. That's another high point. There's lots and lots and lots of high points. So there's also lows. The lows are, it can be very lonely. It can be lonely. It can be overwhelming. When I say lonely, while everyone's around when things are great, people seem to disappear when it's not. And sometimes those times that are great are just in our head. It's really not even sales driven. It's lost a good client, lost a good employee. Someone stole from you. A new competitor moved into your market. You've got these lows, and we're so emotional. Many, many, many entrepreneurs that are successful are that lead by heart, lead by emotion, and these things affect people deeply. Not always long term. It's usually fleeting, and it passes, and you just get back into it, and that's just back in the roller coaster. You're up and down, up and down. That's exhausting. The other lows are your weaknesses show up. Your weakness in marketing or in just in business in general, human resources area, just any of those things. Those things hold you. You're too nice. You can't hold people accountable. That is going to be a huge handicap you have in business because it requires rhinoceros skin. It requires a huge part of you that needs to know how to hold people accountable and still have them want to do the job that they need to do. It really, structuring a company that way is tiresome, it's long, and it's not done usually the first time. So when that doesn't work, after all the effort and money you spent to do so, you seem to crash and bottom out. The other lows are if you're really a grinder and you're really pushing your company and you're working a lot of hours and it's what you talk about at the dinner table and on the weekends, your own call or any of those things, it takes a toll on your family and those around you. You'll notice that you have fewer and fewer friends that are not either in your business or business owners. Non-business owners, generally people that work for someone else, oftentimes can't relate and don't deal with people that are business owners because you're talking in different languages. You're talking about creating things and doing big stuff. And sometimes the people you're around just clock in, clock out to do their job. And everybody tends to gravitate towards people like them. I've lost lots of friends in the last couple of years. I wouldn't say lost. They're not going anywhere, but it's not very often. It's very seldom that you talk to people. I think that's also the social media world. I think that a lot of people replace personal contact with, I see you online, I know what you're doing, and I tell you happy birthday once a year, so we're good, right? No, that's not good, and I've fallen victim to that myself. But the lows are, you lose a lot of money. You work really hard. You feel like it's no return for it. And, I watched entrepreneurs get into drugs and alcohol, of course. Marriages fall apart, relationships with kids, and health. Their health go real bad. So we've got some real lows there. And I think it's important to know that that's part of it. A good business person is okay with both. You don't love the lows, but you know that the lows, the low points, the dips are what's going to create the fire to make you learn, overcome, redo, re-engage, recalibrate, and execute. Without the lows, you kind of get complacent and you think, is it always this good? You also, if you're not having bad times, you're probably not pushing very hard and you're not even getting close to living up to your potential. So besides the real highs and the lows, the best you can do is just pursue balance. In your business, leads aren't consistent. You have, I don't know how you get your leads, whether that's through digital marketing, through, plumber marketing, whatever it is. If it's really, especially if it's just one or even 1.5 to 2 places that you get work from, you're going to see inconsistent flow of leads. You're going to have times where you just get flooded, especially if it's weather related. You're going to get really busy, and then you stop marketing because you're busy producing. It's the old entrepreneur trap. Mike Michalowicz will tell you about it. You get real busy producing what you just sold, blah, 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 get that done, invoice it out, then you need to go back and start marketing again. Then there's that slow period where you don't have any work because your pipeline got empty because you rode that roller coaster up and down. And this is what entrepreneurship is. It's the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. It's all of that. It's a bunch of books by, I just mentioned Mike Michalowicz, Clockwork, Surge, Pumpkin Plan, Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. There's a bunch of books that he wrote that I think are very valuable to this. Fix Just Next is a great book. The key is to find balance. So balance is obtained by flatlining or at least getting consistent leads where you know that you need to be growing, but having enough work coming from different places where you aren't as worried about that next job. If you're worried about the next job every single day, then you're acting like it, and you're in a scarcity mindset, and you're reactionary to everything, and you can't structure your company, and you exhaust those that work around you. I know because we have clients in the past and even currently that are in that place that every dollar matters, every dollar. And it's not the case. Finding out who your ideal client is and what you should be doing and what's most profitable will clean that up to where you now know that it's more work will come tomorrow. It's an abundance mindset. There's more out there. I could go find and create a business that has a consistent funnel that attracts people that want to work with us. So that that's another thing. But finding that balance to where you have learned your weaknesses and plug that hole by either fixing it, bringing someone else in to work for your company that has a strength where you don't. It's very hard for a lot of entrepreneurs to do so, by the way. Scaling and hiring that first and that fifth and that eighth person. You don't need to be hiring bodies. You need to be hiring people that are going to run your company, because you're going to get to a point where you want to not be involved in the day-to-day all the time. Be the one gets every phone call and every problem is yours to fix. That's not a business. That's a job. It's a bad job. You would quit a job like that if you were getting paid by the hour or the meager salary of working for a company and all of that happened. Well, here you are with your own business, probably not paying yourself very well, maybe not paying yourself very well, and it's still happening. So you not only do you get all this shit piled on you, but you also don't make the income to make it worth it. So this is where that risk reward starts to come in, that equation. So finding that balance to where you set a goal. How much time do I want off? What do I really like to do the most in my business, and what do I not like to do, or what I'm not good at? What am I not good at? Who do I hire that is good at those things or likes to do those things that I don't? And then you put them in place, and then you work and you coach and you invest and you develop and you hold them accountable and congratulate and discipline if you must. But you build people up that can make it to where your company is now. It's a revenue source for you, and maybe you go and start other businesses, which is a serial entrepreneur. So you get where I'm going with that. But finding that balance, it's within your control. What's not within your control are a lot of things outside of your control. The insurance, what the customer is going to do. You have some effect over that, but you can find and hire the right people. They might need to make more than you think you're willing to pay, but then I would tell you probably need to raise your prices, because you must be able to make a profit and cover your overhead. And you must pay people good enough to make a living wage. These groceries are no joke, guys. I'm struggling with our power bill. I mean, if the cost of living has gone way up, and we're so lethargic in keeping up with that. We're afraid to raise our prices. But if you can show the value, there were people willing to pay your price. And I know that, because when I give a retainer for our coaching, I'm usually, if it's an area where I know I'm really, really going to make great, huge outcomes, I have no problem charging enough. And the right people will pay that, because they said, if I get X return off of it, and which means they probably have to do the work. I'm just showing them how. I don't do people's marketing. I don't set everything up. I work with people to set it up. But the right entrepreneur says, I take a part in this. I've got to own it. I'm going to spend X, Y, and Z to develop this skill set. I better do the work, or it would have been just a waste of money and threw it away. So finding that balance so that you can do it is it. I'll go back to the beginning of starting a business. I created a course from having this conversation The course is called 60 Days to Build a Strong Restoration Company. And the reason it's called that is you can't build a great business in 60 days. Of course not. But go for the link down below. Look at that course. It's spread out over 60 days. A bunch of lessons delivered to you daily in a beautiful library, viewable from a tablet or an iPhone or your desktop. You have eternal access to it with downloads. But we take a lot of the components of business training and put it into an absorbable course where someone that might not can afford a full-blown coach or consultant, it's a resource for them. I looked back a long time ago before we ever started structuring our prices and said, and this is what you need to do as an entrepreneur, as it pertains to this podcast. You need to identify who your ideal client is. Your ideal client is not the person that can pay the most for your service. For my case, and probably for yours, it was the people that I like to work with and that I enjoy seeing transformations for. So I could easily probably work with some of the largest restoration disaster companies in the country. I know them all personally. They all have some big issues, but I don't have a huge tenacious appetite to help those companies because generally a lot of them think they already know everything. And they're so big and they have so many resources that they'll just figure it out. But what I do like to work with are small to medium-sized companies. And I say small as low as $1 million up to 15, 25 million, probably on the high side, only because a lot of the things are still new for those folks. And there's so huge of an area of simple fixes that I enjoy that transformation. I enjoy that journey with people going through the good and the bad. I've realized that avatar. So I have to price my services to be able to work with those folks. I won't be able to work with as many, or I have to work with a whole lot more to make really great income. So I've got to balance that out. These are the same things you can do a lot of really cheap TPA jobs, or you can do fewer jobs, but with people who really can afford to pay you and really need the help. You have to decide. And I talk about these things often. There's no right or wrong answer. But running a business with no profit is not going to help you grow your business. It's going to shrink your business. But who do you want to work for? Who fulfills your cup? Which people? I would love to do more nonprofit stuff. And you know what I'm doing to make that happen? I'm growing businesses that don't need me so I can make an income so I can do more nonprofit for free. That's my goal. And it could be your goal as well. I'm not real sure. But you've got to start out with a vision and expectations. And it's fair that those are going to change. When you first start a business, you've got to have these kind of conversation with yourself of what do I want this to look like, sound like, taste like? What do I want people to say about my business? What do I want to say about my business? What would my mother and father and my siblings and my cousins say about my business? What will the past clients say? What will my referral partner say? What is your business going to look like? What are your expectations? Now have a real conversation with yourself as an entrepreneur. The vision's not the hard part. I know what I want it to look like, but can I make it happen? And in what timeline? So many people are watching YouTube and Instagram and LinkedIn, and they're seeing the best of the best. They're seeing the shiny, great days. I like to say those are the days that people are on their medication and acting at their best behavior. But they don't see the sloppy, messy, psycho people stealing from you and employees leaving, OSHA fines. They don't see that. Nobody posts that on social media or on the network. So it makes people think, well, I want to be like that guy. And they take risk because they think that person they're watching, just that happened overnight. They think that's just easy. It's not. It probably took a lot of times doing it wrong before they got it to where it's doing it right. And they're only showing you there. I make a joke all the time that if you're watching online, again, Instagram, Facebook, and someone's there and they're making it look like they're doing a $5 million job, why don't you take a comma off that? It might be 500,000. It might be $1.5 million. I've seen people post that they're working on a humongous job, but the truth is they're a sub. They're working on one small sliver. It's great, but you're misrepresenting, and you got people watching that think that that might be reality. And what happens when you have unmet expectations and you chase false reality as an entrepreneur, you emotionally feel like a failure and you shut down. And it hurts your business, it hurts your energy, and takes you a while to get back up. And you might never try that again, which would be a mistake. Doing large commercial losses is very profitable. It's very fulfilling for you and your team. It makes dreams come true. I can't say it. But if you get slapped and put down and feel like you just can't figure that out, it's because you quit too quick. Ed Mylett says, I'm just an ordinary person doing some unordinary shit. I'm going to keep going. You know why I keep going? Get up and go. And people say, and I do. I have ideas that people say you should have quit that a long time ago. I said, but that's what everybody else does. So if everybody else quits and I keep going, I won't have any competition, and I've got a better chance of success over there. That business will look much different because it's not crowded on the top of success. It's pretty empty because most people quit before they get there. So I'm not going to quit, and I would urge you not to quit. I love music. I talk about it all the time. I love rock and roll, and I couldn't tell you how many stories of the best in the world that had no plan B, that everybody urged them. Why are you couch surfing? Why are you in that crap band that can't carry a tune? Why are you getting arrested? Because they're trying to get somewhere else. They're trying to just do what they love. And it's not about the money. It's not about the fame. It's about doing what they want to be doing. So I know that's getting in the weeds of this topic, but it causes the emotions that go along with the highs and lows, using the same component. When a rock and roll guy gets on stage and he's playing in front of 10, 30, 100,000 people, it's euphoric. It's probably the best feeling in the world to have 100,000 people singing your songs back to you and feeling that electric buzz. But then when they're not popular and they're watching their friends in the rock and roll industry die and commit suicide and have overdoses, and they're sleeping on a stinky, smelly bus with all their bandmates and traveling across the country to go play Paducah, Kentucky, that's probably not what they saw for themselves. But they forgot that 3 nights ago they played for a lot of people. I'll tell you, I did a course one time, an in-person course. It was a very good one. And I don't seem to be great at selling. And a lot of times my courses don't have a lot of people. Well, there's a part of me that feels as an entrepreneur that I failed, that if I feel like someone's watching me. Oh my gosh, Clark, you only had 3 to 5 people in that class. There might be some people that say that. They see a picture online or something, but those kinds of people are not my tribe. They're not your tribe. They're not the kind of people we're needing to surround ourselves. Those are real shallow, immature, infantile, and unprofessional people. And they probably will fail in their own business if they even own it. So when I did a workshop one time with 2 people, and I'm thinking of it right now, it cost me more to host the class, to travel there, to feed the food. No, we had a sponsor for lunch, so it didn't cost me anything to feed. But I lost money on that job, or broke even at the very best. But that's not what matters. What matters is 2 people felt strong enough about what I said, and that attached and connected enough to say, I'm going to make the investment of my hard-earned money to go listen to this because they think there's a chance it's going to make them better at something. And it did. Both of these people I know very well now, and they are having good success of it. But if I had said, oh man, I wanted 20 people or 200, but I only got 2, I'm forgetting that I've got 2 people who need this. And that 30 years ago, I didn't see myself having an audience and having any kind of impact. I thought I was, I didn't think I was relevant to anything. But now I've learned and I've grown and I've built my career, and I did everything. I did the hard stuff, the good stuff. I made good money. I made no money. I worked in places that were dangerous and away from my family for a lot of the time. I slept in my truck, and I lowered myself at what some may say to below a level of what I could do to do what I had to do. I'll do it again. I'm 50 now. I told you I would do that again. When it comes to doing what has to be done, I have no ego. But some people say a class of 2 isn't great. If we do a webinar, it's 100 people. So I wanted a room full. But think about that. If you're in a live situation and 100 people show up to talk with you and learn something, that's pretty rare. And you need to embrace that and set your expectations right and set them in reality, because when you set your expectations wrong, you feel like a failure. My last part of entrepreneurship is what I don't see enough people do is market their strengths and strengthen their weaknesses. If you're weak at something, there's a line of thought that says, coaches say, don't spend time on your weaknesses, double down on your strengths. There's some logic to that. I think long term, you're a more well-rounded entrepreneur and business owner if you develop strengths. You might not master your weaknesses. You know, if you're a 9 or a 10 on your strength level of something like marketing, but operationally you're at a 4 or 5, you're never going to match the other one. But you can get from a 4 or 5 to a 6 or 7 and be better at it, so that you can recognize others that are good at it, and you won't just hire the first person who shows up that can breathe and hire the wrong person. But now you have competency to know how to hold someone accountable. You know what the outcome needs to be. You don't have to know everything about something to be in charge of that thing. What you need to do is be like football coach. The coach can't make every play on the field, but he needs to hold the team together and look for weaknesses and bring in his other coaches to make sure everybody is performing at their top skill set. He can't do that if he hasn't played the game. If his weakness is coaching people, he's not going to be a good coach. He's going to scream at everybody, tell them what they need to do, but he's not going to help them with the skill sets and the all the components, the mind part, to get over that, whatever is stopping them, to get to what they need to do to win. It takes a special person. It's not for everyone. You and your business. I watch a lot of people start restoration businesses or any small business with no accounting experience, not understanding their numbers. That's dangerous, and it's usually a recipe for disaster. Not knowing how to hire to replace themselves. They're micromanagers out of fear. If I'm not the one doing it, it won't be done right. It's my plan. How could I ever be a boss if I have people and let them do it their way and not my way? All these things are toxic, limiting beliefs. Letting people come into your company, maybe friends and family that aren't aligned, that are toxic and entitled. Well, the rest of the team is like, we got to get rid of those guys. And you're like, nah, we're friends and family. Thanksgiving will be awkward. As a business owner, you've got to have the strength to say, strike 1, you've got to go. Strike 2, you got to go. Whatever it is, whatever your levels are. But you've got to protect the hive. And that's hard. It puts you in a very tough, lonely situation. But doing it right and doing it well and doing it consistently attracts people to your team where you don't have to do it anymore, and they begin to do it. They know what the bar is. They know what the standard is. They know where that company needs to go and what kinds of people, based on your vision and your continued coaching for everybody. So those are the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. It's not easy. It's probably never going to be. I would say probably in the 1500s, shop owners failed and did well. Who knows, right? But I applaud anyone that's taken the attempt, but don't struggle. Don't just suffer. And don't always let it be about just the price. If something costs a lot, it's a good chance that they know what they're worth and they've had some success to have the nerve to charge that. You might not charge enough in your business because you're worried about the perception of the homeowner or the insurance company or whatever. So you haven't had the success to know that I'm expensive, but I'm great. Well, the people that are charging you a lot for whatever they do, they work on a diesel truck or HVAC or plumbing, everybody has a plumber that's cheap and a plumber that's expensive. Are they different? I'd say yes. The expensive one has figured out systems where they now know they can garner that higher price. And they're also not worried about the people that won't pay it. I'm the same way. In my business coaching, if someone says, you're too expensive, I guess we're just not for you. There are less expensive coaches, and sometimes they do a really good job. Good enough? I don't know, but I don't worry about it anymore. I worry about 0% about what other people are going to do. I know how to sell for my company, tell my story, and attract the right people. I don't think about other coaches other than we're friends and we say hello, but I don't worry about who's doing what company's doing what. I just worry about my lane, my clients, my family, and my friends and colleagues. And I think that's a maturity that entrepreneurs need to have, and quit doing that FOMO thing, fear of missing out. Quit being petty and just be abundant and give and teach and be that person that's recognized for that. So, but that's it. This was a different podcast today. I just was compelled after being in Florida, looking at entrepreneurs, and some of them just like really just gripped with pain. Just like, oh my gosh, I came down here and I've lost $50,000, or came down here and my staff, this is the big one, my staff that I brought with me, they all left and went to work for somebody else because everybody's poaching everyone for a lot higher pay. You can pay more in a storm sometimes because you're charging more, hopefully not gouging. But they got to go back home and you're right back where you were. But you go to a storm, take your people. They're like, hey, we like this life. We like this road money, and they take better jobs or higher paying jobs, maybe not better, and leave you in a gap. And for an entrepreneur, you feel lonely again. Been talking about lonely all day. So I hope that this resonated with you. I always invite everyone, whether you're watching this on the YouTube video side or listening to it on your favorite podcast channel, which is Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever, Pandora, maybe? No. Drop me some comments. Go check out Restoration Advisors and sign up for our blog. A lot of times our blog will go beyond the podcast and provide some tools and free downloads and things about things we talked about here. Sometimes down in the description of these, we'll have something downloadable. So I really want to leave you with this. If you're an entrepreneur, I want you to pick up a book by an author named Gino Wickman, Gino. It's called Traction. And he's got a couple of books. The other one's Rocket Fuel and Get a Grip. But they're all around a business operating system called EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, of how to tame the monster, how to create a consistent business. So I recommend you check that. Here at Restoration Advisors, we are coaches and implementers of that. You might read that book and say, I love how this sounds, but I don't know that I could create that. I don't know that I could embed that into my company. Well, that's what we do and what we get hired for. We take those system. We're not burdened by all the daily shit in your business, but the moving parts. And we lock in and get that built for you with you and hold you accountable to do that part and the rest of your team. And the results are magical. They really are. We've been seeing a lot of people really calm this thing down, create some balance, and start to live their dreams. Because when your head is clear, when your head is right where it needs to be, you create more and you just grow from there. So it's self-serving. But anyway, thank you for listening to the Disaster Podcaster. I met a lot of new people in Florida that I never met. I had small audience with some groups and told a lot of people about the Disaster Podcaster. They had no clue there was one. So, promotion is always a big thing. We don't make money off of this, but I like people to listen. I like people to give us feedback. We learn a whole lot more about it, and then I think we help the industry grow. So those of you that are new listening to it, you heard about this from Florida last week. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you tell us what you think and drop us some feedback. Other than that, everyone have a phenomenal week, and we will see you next week on episode number 17. See you.